Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news tonight on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. Opposition protests over disqualifications disrupt the first day of winter session in the Rajya Sabha. Chairman Naidu says issue not open for debate, asks members to discuss damage caused by Cyclone Oki instead. Union Cabinet approves draft law to make the practice of giving instant triple talaq illegal. The Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Marriage Bill will be applicable on instant triple talaq. Supreme Court bench extends Aadhaar linking deadline to March 31st, says that to open new bank accounts, applicants don't have to provide Aadhaar numbers but submit proof that they have applied for unique identification card. And in a far-reaching development, the US Federal Communications Commission votes to repeal rules that ensure free and open internet. Move expected to allow internet service providers to decide what content consumers can access. The winter session of Parliament commenced today. However, the day was marked with multiple adjournments in the Rajya Sabha as opposition protests continued. Both question hour and zero hour were adjourned. Here's more.
On the first day of the winter session in Rajya Sabha, only official business could be conducted till lunch break due to disruptions. The chairman also announced his order disqualifying Sharad Yadav and Ali Anwar Ansari from the Rajya Sabha.
It was crystal clear that by their conduct and actions, speeches, both the respondents, Sri Sharad Yadavji and Sri Ali Ansari, has voluntarily given up their membership of the political party JDU, by which they were set up as candidates for the election to the Rajya Sabha from the state of Bihar and elected as such members.
The opposition immediately protested against the disqualifications.
नीतीश कुमार जी और उनके साथी जितने गए हैं वो महागठबंधन के नाम पे जुड़े हैं, आपको रिजाइन करना चाहिए। और मिस्टर यादव महागठबंधन का हिस्सा है, वो महागठबंधन के नाम पे चुने हैं, उसकी सदस्यता रद्द नहीं की जा सकती, सदस्यता आपकी रद्द की जानी चाहिए।
मैं जानना चाहता हूँ, जो आपने रूलिंग दी, जिसको आपने नोटिफिकेशन में जारी कर दिया, वो रूलिंग एज ए वाइस प्रेसिडेंट दी, as a chairman di ya as a court di?
Chairman Naidu made it clear that the issue was not open for debate. He also asked the members to discuss the damage caused by the cyclone instead.
This is a very important issue concerning the lives and properties of the people of Kerala, Coast and also Tamil Nadu. Please allow him to make his submission.
The disruptions led to the adjournment of 0 hour. When the House reassembled at noon for question hour, Congress members began protesting against Prime Minister Narendra Modi's remarks against his predecessor, Dr. Manmohan Singh, after Leader of Opposition Ghulam Nabi Azad raised the issue. Ghulam Nabi Azad also demanded a discussion on the issue, but his demand was turned down by the chair.
Leader of the Opposition को मैंने अनुमति दिया, विषय मेरा ध्यान में लाने के लिए उन्होंने लाया और मैंने अध्ययन किया पहले ही और डिसाइड किया उसको ये 267 के अंतर्गत क्वेश्चन और सस्पेंशन का अनुमति नहीं दिया.
In the face of relentless opposition protests, the House was adjourned once again till 2:30 p.m.
The House is adjourned to meet at 2:30 p.m. because non-official day members will have an opportunity to have discussion on those issues.
Earlier in the day, Rajya Sabha Chairman Venkaiah Naidu started the proceedings with obituary references to 9 former members of the Rajya Sabha and former Air Marshal Arjun Singh. The Prime Minister also introduced the new members of his cabinet to the House. With Panchanan Mishra, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, in the post-lunch session, the opposition insisted on an apology from the Prime Minister, leading to an uproar and adjournment of the House. The opposition leaders were protesting the Prime Minister's remarks made during the Gujarat campaign.
When the House met again in the afternoon, Samajwadi Party MP Naresh Agrawal raised objections over the affidavit filed by the government. In its affidavit submitted to the Supreme Court, the government has talked about setting up special courts to decide cases involving politicians as accused.
मेरी तो कहना है श्रीमान पूरे देश में मैसेज किया कि हम लोग अपराधी हैं, एमपी एमएलए के लिए विशेष अदालत गठित की जा रही है। आतंकवादी 7-7 साल 10-10 साल जेलों में दामाद की तरह पाले जाते हैं, उनके लिए नहीं अदालत है।
अब सुनिए, Article 13 and Article 14, sir. This is force in the territory of India. This is Article 13 and 14 is equality before law. The state shall not deny to any person equality before the law or the equal protection of the laws within the territory of India. Now, this is the basic structure of the Indian Constitution. So, this is, can the government go against the basic structure?
So, what is the point of order? Yes, what is the point of order? Tell me
why this government has sent this, taken this position.
Sir,
he's right in raising this. Sir,
several private members' bills were also introduced during the post-lunch session.
No, sir, please say no. I think the ayes have introduced.
Opposition once again protested the Prime Minister's remarks made during campaigning in Gujarat. Following this, the House was adjourned first for a while, then till Monday, December 18th.
House stands adjourned till 11 hours Monday on 18th December 2017.
With inputs from Navikram Singh, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the Rajya Sabha chairman also announced a new panel of vice chairmen. The 6 members announced are Satyanarayan Jatiya, Tiruchi Siva, T.K. Rangarajan, Bhuneshwar Kalita, Baswaraj Patil and Sukhendu Shekhar Roy. Any one of the members of this panel may preside over the council in the absence of the chairman and the deputy chairman when so requested by the chairman or in his absence by the deputy chairman. A Rajya Sabha appointed panel has given a clean chit to Justice S.K. Gangele, the sitting judge of the Madhya Pradesh High Court, in a case of sexual assault. The charges were levelled by a former additional district and sessions judge of Gwalior. The report of the committee constituted under the Judges Inquiry Act of 1968 was tabled in the Rajya Sabha on Friday. The report said that the 4 instances of sexual harassment alleged by the complainant are not proved beyond reasonable doubt. The panel also found no basis in the charge that Justice Gangele misused his position to use the lower judiciary to harass the complainant. However, on the issue of her transfer from Gwalior to Siddi, the panel said that the transfer was punitive in its view. The panel, comprising Supreme Court Judge R. Bhanumati, Justice Manjula Chellur and jurist K.K. Venugopal, was set up in April 2015 by then Rajya Sabha Chairman Muhammad Hamid Ansari. This after admitting a motion supported by 58 members to impeach Justice S.K. Gangele. Well, the Lok Sabha was adjourned today after paying tributes to former and sitting members of the House. Earlier, the Prime Minister introduced new ministers from his cabinet to the lower house. Here are the details.
Lok Sabha proceedings were adjourned on the first day of the winter session after paying tributes to 3 sitting and 7 former members who passed during the intersession period.
अब यह सभा दिवंगत आत्माओं के सम्मान में कुछ देर मौन खड़ी रही।
Earlier, Sunil Kumar Jakhar took oath as Lok Sabha member. Jakhar was elected as Member of Parliament from Punjab's Gurdaspur constituency in October. The seat had fallen vacant after the death of film actor and BJP MP Vinod Khanna.
Honorable Prime Minister to introduce the minister.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi also introduced new ministers to the House. These included Dharmendra Pradhan, Piyush Goyal and Nirmala Sitharaman, who were elevated as ministers in the cabinet reshuffle in September.
श्री मुख्तार अब्बास नकवी अल्पसंख्यक मामलों के मंत्री, श्री राजकुमार सिंह पावर तथा न्यू एवं रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी मंत्रालयों के राज्य मंत्री का स्वतंत्र प्रभार, श्री हरदीप सिंह पुरी हाउसिंग एंड अर्बन अफेयर्स राज्य मंत्री स्वतंत्र प्रभार।
माननीय सदस्यगण, मुझे सभा को सूचित करना है कि श्रीमती स्नेहलता श्रीवास्तव को 1 दिसंबर 2017 से
Lok Sabha Speaker Sumitra Mahajan also introduced the new Secretary General, Snehlata Srivastav, to the House. A former IAS officer, Srivastav, took over on the 1st of December and is the first woman Secretary General of the Lok Sabha. Ravindra Singh Sheran's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the Union Cabinet has cleared a bill that proposes to make triple talaq a criminal offence. According to reports, the government is hoping to get Parliament clearance for it during the winter session itself. The draft Muslim Women Protection of Rights or Marriage Bill was considered by the Union Cabinet. The bill attracts jail term of 3 years for the husband. Home Minister Rajnath Singh led a group of ministers to draft the bill. In a landmark ruling in August, the Supreme Court had said that the practice of Muslim men uttering talaq 3 times for an instant divorce is unconstitutional. The proposed law will be applicable only on instant triple talaq or talaq-e-biddat and will give power to the victim to approach a magistrate seeking subsistence allowance for herself and minor children.
Many state governments have supported it. मैं आपसे इतना ही कह सकता हूं कि इस बिल के डिटेल स्ट्रैटेजी के बारे में यहां मैं कुछ नहीं कह सकता, सिवाय इतना कहने के कि ये बिल देश की मुस्लिम समाज की महिलाओं के सम्मान और सुरक्षा के लिए है।
जब हम लोगों को परेशानी हो गई तब सुप्रीम कोर्ट में हम लोग गए और हमारे सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने हम लोगों को लाइट ऑफ कुरान फैसला दिया और ये निर्देश भी दिया कि सरकार इस पे कानून बनाए। तो अब सरकार ने इसको फॉलो किया है, मैं इसको धन्यवाद देती हूँ।
Well, the Supreme Court today extended the deadline for mandatory linking of Aadhaar with bank accounts and government welfare schemes till March 31st next year. The deadline of February 6th for linking Aadhaar with mobile services also stands extended up to March 31st. The court also ruled that for opening new bank accounts, an applicant will not be required to provide Aadhaar number to the bank. However, the applicant needs to show a proof to the bank that he or she has applied for the Aadhaar number. Deadlines for linking Aadhaar with existing bank accounts, PAN cards and extended to 31st March by the government. Final hearings on the constitutional validity of the program are set to begin on January 17th. The government had earlier set a deadline of December 31st for Aadhaar linking.
So whichever system we have, unless we have proper verification, one, and unless you can secure that that information will not be misused either by government or by the agencies that have the data, unless we can secure that, it could be a hydra-headed monster, not only for the person, but for the government.
Right. Well, the 5-day World Telugu Conference was inaugurated by Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu in Hyderabad on Friday. Nearly 8,000 delegates and representatives have registered to attend the mega conference that will involve discussions and talks on Telugu literature and culture. Several stalls have been set up to showcase the history of Telangana, its literature, handicrafts, temples and coins. On December 19th, President Ramnath Kovind would be the chief guest at the valedictory function. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Friday paid tributes to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel on his 67th death anniversary. In a Twitter message, the Prime Minister said, "We remember the great Sardar Patel on his Punya Tithi." The Prime Minister also added that every Indian is indebted to the Iron Man of India for his monumental service to the nation. Meanwhile, West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee also remembered the country's first Home Minister. In a tweet, Banerjee said, "Solemnly remembering the Iron Man of India on his death anniversary." Well, here's a quick look now at what else is making news across the country and nationwide. The National Green Tribunal on Friday imposed a complete ban on plastic items like carry bags, plates and cutlery in towns located on the banks of the river Ganga like Haridwar and Rishikesh. The Green Panel also banned the sale, manufacture and storage of these items till Uttarkashi. It also imposed 5,000 rupees fine for violating the order and said action will also be taken against the concerned officials. The Finance Ministry has hiked customs duty on some electronic items including television, mobile phone, projector and water heater to boost domestic manufacturing. A government notification said customs duty on television sets has been increased to 15%, while on monitors and projectors has been doubled to 20%. For telephone or mobile, the duty has been raised to 15%, and the duty on hairdressing instruments has been doubled to 20%. The Supreme Court on Friday dismissed social activist Teesta Setalwad's petition seeking to freeze her bank accounts in Gulbarg Society Fund embezzlement case. The move comes after Setalwad, her husband Javed Anand and their two NGOs, Sabrang Trust and the Citizens for Justice and Peace, had challenged the verdict of the Gujarat High Court. The Gujarat government had alleged that Setalwad had allegedly spent the NGO money meant for education for personal purposes. Pakistan's Maritime Security Force has arrested 43 Indian fishermen and seized 7 of their boats for allegedly fishing illegally in the country's territorial waters in the Arabian Sea. They will now be presented before a judicial magistrate who will most likely send them to judicial remand in jail. With this, the total number of arrests of Indian fishermen this year has gone up to over 400. It's time for a short break now, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
This is Kibutu in Arunachal Pradesh, East Point East on the map of India. Kibutu is dangerously close to the Chinese pressure point. We see first-hand and unseen areas of sand dunes and see how BSF is guarding this difficult territory along the Indo-Pak borderline. We are now slowly entering into the interior-most parts of the Sir Creek area. Indo-Tibetan Border Police Force justifies each word of this thing. Watch super exclusive episodes of National Security series only on Rajya Sabha television.
I am Raj Paroda. I am going to talk to you about challenges before Indian agriculture, how successfully we can meet them through scientific initiatives and efforts. Please watch Eureka.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, the Federal Communications Commission in the US has decided to end net neutrality. The rules governing net neutrality have been in use since 2015, but after the vote, they will have no place now. Net neutrality essentially prevents internet service providers or ISPs from discriminating against websites on matters relating to speed and access to websites.
Voting along party lines, the U.S. Federal Communications Commission on Thursday repealed rules that ensure a free and open internet. The FCC voted 3-2 to repeal the rules. The approval of FCC Chairman Ajit Pai's proposal will allow internet service providers to decide what content consumers can access. Democrats, Hollywood, and companies like Google and Facebook urged Pai to keep the Obama-era rules that bar service providers from blocking, slowing access to, or charging more for certain content.
We're reversing the Obama-era FCC's unprecedented decision to apply Title II regulations to the Internet. I'm proud to help end this 2-year experiment with heavy-handed regulation, this massive regulatory overreach. Prior to the FCC's 2015 decision, consumers and innovators alike benefited from a free and open internet. This was not because the government imposed utility-style regulation. It didn't. This was not because the FCC had a rule regulating internet conduct. It had none. Instead, through Republican and Democratic administrations alike, including through the first 6 years of the Obama administration, the FCC abided by a 20-year bipartisan consensus that the government should not control or heavily regulate internet access.
Consumer advocates and trade groups representing content providers have planned a legal challenge aimed at preserving those rules. At least 3 enforcement chiefs in the US said they will lead a multi-state lawsuit to challenge the reversal.
Internet service providers could charge you content or charge you to actually access certain content, which would be much more like cable news. If you look at countries where net neutrality protections don't exist, for example, Portugal, that's actually what we've seen, is where these companies, internet service providers, are actually charging people to access certain content.
Consumers are unlikely to see immediate changes resulting from the rule change, but smaller startups worry the lack of restrictions could drive up costs or lead to their content being blocked. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
And repealing the landmark 2015 rules aimed at ensuring a free and open internet for one and all, the US Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, has sided with the argument that net neutrality aims to solve a problem that does not exist. Let's take a look at what this means for the world, especially countries like India, where startups and small companies fear they will get a rough deal and will be at a big disadvantage.
Net neutrality in effect means that ISPs have to treat all websites equally, which means network providers can't charge more for access to certain websites. Further, they can't give access to any websites for free or even slow down the speed of other websites for applications. The Telecom Regulatory Authority of India has held that internet access is a public good that should be used for benefit of all. It considers internet an open platform, which means that its services can't be discriminatory. It has ruled that operators can't block, degrade or slow down internet traffic selectively or even get into tie-ups that discriminate traffic. It also mentions that terms licensing must detail bias in offering content. Logically, the demise of net neutrality in the US should have little or no impact on other countries, including India. But because web has more fluid borders, the move is expected to have ripple effect in other countries, including India eventually. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
Well, joining me on the phone line now is Karnika Seth, cyber law expert. Welcome and thank you for joining me on the show now. You know, as far as the US FCC's decision is concerned, how is it going to impact us and Indian companies in particular?
Well, internet is a platform which is actually inherently free for all, and I've always advocated that the net neutrality basically means oxygen to the internet, and if we deprive it of that aspect itself, then the whole rudimentary aspect of internet and free speech and non-discrimination online is evaded. And to me, it's something which will have ripples all over in different countries. The decision of the U.S. government here, the FCC, and lead to have it across the world, including India. And since most of the top companies, which are operating in the IT space, happen to be from U.S. based, including Microsoft or Facebook or the other companies, if we look at aspects like the Airtel Zero or the Free Basics, which was to be launched into India, now this is going to impact us because if TRAI, as on date, we don't have discriminatory practices, and TRAI has upheld net neutrality principles as on date. But what will happen is if we evade these rules even in India, then the position will be competition will be affected at large, because the smaller enterprises will not be able to operate to the best of their efficiency and won't be able to bring up their whole potential in the market. Right. And that's going to be striking down with the Competition Commission of India being there in place now. And that's something which we really need to look at, because the Competition Commission of India, now the Competition Act of 2002, looks into and investigates any agreements between entities wherein there is possibility of stifling of competition, which impacts industry growth in that particular aspect.
Sure. So would you say then that Indian firms are at a disadvantage now after the SEC's ruling?
Well, if we were to, if also implement the same principles, and say stripe off the net neutrality, will be impacted at large, but how much of the ripples will be felt within India as a country is something which would be, to some extent needs to be evaluated at this point. Since I said most of the companies abroad are, which are operating in the IT space happen to be from US and the servers being in US, if they were to have deep pockets and they were to pay heavily for cable purchase and the broadband companies to, speeden up their access in other parts of the world, including the users in India, then certainly those websites would be favored because they are faster and, the efficiency of those websites and the access would be more appealable rather than the others who are just mushrooming. So it's going to be unfair to the new startups, to me, and that's what it appears, because something we cannot have boundaries on the internet space. Somehow it does have, a regulation across different countries, and one country to the other, we may have frontiers, but then on the internet, it is bound to spill into the other country, and the effect of the law, particularly U.S. law, because
all right, Karnika Seth, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us there and putting things into perspective for us and giving us, bringing us up to date with that particular bit of news. Now, moving on, here are some updates from across the world in Global Buzz. US firefighters battle to protect coastal cities and towns in the path of a mammoth California wildfire that has already destroyed more than 700 homes. The Thomas Fire, which erupted in December, has since engulfed more than 2.49 lakh acres. The wildfire remains a threat to some 18,000 homes and other structures. A wide-reaching investigation into child abuse across Australia called for sweeping changes to be made, including recommending an end to mandatory celibacy in the Catholic Church. It also recommended that Australia should introduce a law forcing religious leaders to report child abuse, including Catholic priests who are told of abuse in the confessional. The 8th round of Syrian talks concluded with no agreement or progress made in Geneva. The UN-mediated peace talks started on November 28th and went through a series of setbacks. The Syrian government delegation arrived a day late, and during the 2 weeks' time, the government delegation went back to Syria for 8 days. Vice Marshal of the North Korean military, General Hwang Kyung-so, a top aide of North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, has disappeared from public life, sparking speculations that he may have been executed by the death squads. Hwang was once inside the North Korean dictator's inner circle within the Workers' Party's Central Committee. He was expelled from the party after being caught taking bribes. Well, ace Indian shuttler PV Sindhu has defeated world number 2 Akane Yamaguchi of Japan in the Dubai Super Series finals. Sindhu defeated Yamaguchi 21-9, 21-13 in just 36 minutes to top Group A in the women's singles. With the win, she stretched her winning streak to 3 matches in the tournament. Sindhu dominated the game from the very beginning as she took a 5-0 lead over her Japanese rival in the first set. However, the second set started on an equal footing. At one stage, the score was 9-8, but Sindhu kept her composure and stretched the lead to 13-8 before finally clinching the set 21-13. She will next face China's Chen Yufei in the semi-final on Saturday. Well, that's it on this newscast. Good night.